Hi, welcome to the Great Immigrant Dream podcast, where we will talk to immigrant entrepreneurs and unravel their journey of entrepreneurship. These are people who came in with nothing to a different country with a different culture, different language, and entirely different ecosystem, and ended up creating something big in entrepreneurship and making a mark for themselves. We will capture their stories of courage in overcoming the innumerable challenges that immigrants face, their determination through all these difficulties. These are stories of immigrants who are true embodiments of the great American dream. I'm your host, Kumar V, an immigrant entrepreneur myself, and I want to inspire you to fulfill your great immigrant dream. Welcome to the Great Immigrant Dream podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of having as my guest Elona Lopari. She is an entrepreneur, a very inspirational person. Her business is called The Life School. It's more than business, and I'll have her talk more about that. She is the CEO and founder of The Life School. She's been an entrepreneur for over 5 years, and she has an amazing journey. So let's deep dive in her journey, and then let's see what we can get in terms of her mindset, her winner's streak, her winner's mindset. So, Elona, how about you introduce yourself a little more to our guests and listeners?
Yes, of course. Kumar, thanks so much for having me. I love the theme of this podcast because I've also have a journey of being an immigrant entrepreneur as well. So what I do today is I help companies. I'm the CEO and founder of the Life School, and I help companies in the service space scale at the next level, build a self-led company so they can move the owner outside of the company and leave a positive legacy or exit their companies. So that is the day-to-day work that I'm involved in and what my company does.
How did you come upon the name The Life School?
Yes, thank you for that question. I always get asked that question. It really came through inner insight inside of me, just kind of me going back and forth to my past, my reflections of my personal experience and professional experience at that time where I really felt like, whoa, everything is like a school, especially building a business and entrepreneurship. It's the best personal development school and professional development school. And every day we're learning and growing. We're just like students. From our experiences, we learn and grow, and we're able to build on that and then share back and help other people in service. So that's kind of where the name came from. I said, okay, I think that's what it is with the Life School, because I do have a more holistic approach to growing a company rather than maybe traditional business growth practices that are out there. So it just always allows for the human part of the entrepreneur to be built so that they can build a healthy, holistic company as well, and create a positive impact in society and the people that they're surrounding themselves with.
Thank you. You said a lot of things which mean a lot to me personally, and I hope to our audiences. Well, our audience is mainly people who are on the cusp of entrepreneurship or early stage entrepreneurs. And what an amazing learning, everyone, from what Elona just said. Entrepreneurship, this is not just a business. This is not just something you do. It is your whole life. And she has a life-based perspective of how to go about it. Let's listen more about that. But before that, Elona, you're also an author. You essentially underplayed yourself by just talking about the Life School. You wear so many hats. Tell us a little more. You're also a best-selling author. What else? And tell us a little more about your book as well.
Well, thank you for that. Because I'm a more conscious person, I don't try to lead out of ego and accolades and all the things that we do in the journey. For me, it's all about everything I've done has been heart-driven. It's been things that I felt and products that I've put together, such as a legacy product, which I call a book, which I fell in love with once I wrote my first book, which was more of a memoir of my personal and professional experience of what I had learned that I really felt was going to be in service towards others. So once I wrote my first book, then it just became a way for me to structure out my experiences and, build them into methodologies and processes so other people can learn from those experiences. My second one was all about building a purpose-driven entrepreneurial company. And I put my pillars together of how to be able to do that. And then my latest one is on visionary, purpose-driven leadership, which is all about scaling at the next level with people and leadership, because that's obviously the next phase of any type of growth. You can only get so far on your own. If you want to create a big impact to leave a lasting legacy, learning how to be a conscious leader and do that and drive results and impact from other people is going to be really important. So I guess my books have also mirrored my journey of evolution and growth, and I've leveraged them as channels to be able to document what I have learned and turn that into a book. So that's been my book writing and authoring journey and how that has come about.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And Elona, you've used the word legacy a lot, and I see that you're a very impact-driven, a very purpose-driven business leader, and you're inspiring other business leaders to be impact and purpose-driven. Let's take a step back. Let's go back to your journey of starting your entrepreneurship. So what were you doing before that? What prompted you to do this? Let's talk a little more about that.
Yes, it's true. Those are very important values to me. Service, growth, and contribution, which exactly is what came out of my professional experience when I was climbing the corporate ladder in the attempt of achieving the American dream. Because I'm natively from Albania, moved to the U.S. when I was only 15, my parents, and I've seen a lot of those early struggles in my home where I had to grow up very fast because I was the oldest child, and I almost became the parent because I had to translate, I had to go get a job, contribute, with finances to the family and all of that. But my dad directed the American dream to me very clearly. He said, we come here, you can be anything you want to be, from Albania to New York, and obviously his definition is societal programming, meaning that was the only path that they thought, I was going to be secure, get a good degree, get a good job, marry, have a family, you'll live happily ever after. So that's kind of what I did going after and chase. So I did get my degree in business management and finance, and then climbed the corporate ladder for 13 years, reached all the way to the top. And I did many roles from HR to marketing to sales to executive leadership, only to realize that I got to the top and I started questioning myself because I wasn't happy. I said, well, is that all there is? I feel like I got lied about this American dream because I'm not really as happy as I thought I would be at this point. So that's where I started going on the other end and started to explore a lot of my personal development. Who am I as a person? Right? What do I care about beyond the expectations and the roles that I had on to me as a woman or as a leader or as a wife or as a mom, or all the roles that, I guess, all the hats that we wear. So I started going more into a self-discovery journey to figure out who I was, what was important to me. So I started to detach a lot of my identity from my outside achievements, because another part of my work has been to work on happily achieving now, because I would work on achieving because I felt like I was not good enough. And because I was praised for my achievements, I thought that this was the only way that I was valued and received the love from the people that I cared about most. So those are some of the pivotal moments. And the other third part about leading with purpose is I realized that at that level of my stage and phase, it's not the material successes that are going to make me happy. It's not all the accolades, all the achievements, the home, the cars, the high salary, the high sales, all of these things that are so valued in society. It was going to be my own internal growth of always going on my own personal self-exploration journey and contribution. Whatever I had learned, I need to contribute beyond myself towards others. And to me, that was always going to keep me now fulfilled, not just happy for a moment, achieving and getting the next high or the next thing that I needed to achieve. And I said, okay, I am going to dedicate my life to growth and contribution. I'm going to choose purpose first. And whatever I learn, I'm going to ensure that I'm in service for somebody else, whether that's one person or 20 people. To me, quality, I've always been a quality and depth person rather than quantity. So whatever that looked like, that's kind of what has led me to follow purpose and be very strong on why is it that I really care about the things that I do, and the work that I do and the problem that I solve, and keeping that top of mind despite whatever challenges, because obviously challenges are all part of the journey of growth. And there's many as an entrepreneur, and probably we could dive into some of those if you'd like.
You know what? It's so interesting and so inspiring the way you described it. For many people who want to be an entrepreneur, usually the drive is, a nice house or a nicer house, maybe more cars, maybe a fancier car, one of those things. But then when you get there, and this is, you described it so beautifully, when you get there, it is just you and that car. Kind of, it's not that. And you see that you're still kind of, that gap is still there. And that gap, that happiness gap, can be fulfilled only when you change the paradigm to the way you described it, Elona, to impact and purpose-driven leadership. If what I'm doing is impacting 1 people or 100 people, there is a joy in that. It cannot be measured in dollars, but there is a joy in that. There's a fulfillment in that, which is much, much higher than kind of, amassing more and more and more. And at times, I think wealth follows impact. Like right now, if your book is impacting thousands of people, it's bringing you a certain dollar, even if like that's not truly important for you. But despite that, it does. And so on and so forth. Like all businesses, the wealth of a business is usually it is directly proportional to the number of people and the value of the impact it is causing on their lives. So thank you for sharing that. Elena, what would you recount as the biggest challenges when you wanted to make that switch from corporate America to starting your own? What was your mindset? What was your fear? What was your concern then? And how did you overcome them? Let's talk about that.
Yes, I love that question, because I have definitely looked back. And when you look back at anything new, anywhere where you're trying to go from here to here, it's always going to be scary, uncertain. And for me, that was my experience. That's why I started hearing an inner voice, my intuition speaking to me, which I didn't know it was intuition. I just thought, I disregarded it, because obviously who teaches us to learn and to listen to our own intuition speaking to us and telling us, okay, this could be the next thing. So I ignored that for a long time, but it was really the fear of anything new. Right? The fear of survival, meaning, oh my gosh, if I let go of what I now hold on to, because this is so familiar to me, what's going to happen to me on the other side? A lot of money fears started to come up. A lot of, what's the worst case scenario? If my business doesn't succeed, I could probably, can pay my bills. So yeah. You go into those survival modes a lot, especially when you start your business. So I think that's why I did it more on the safer side, whereas I was still working, I started to tap my feet into the entrepreneurial world, started to, do all the first beginning steps of any startup, like try to figure out where I wanted to position myself, who I wanted to help, and what was going to be my business model, and all of these different things, which are so common at the beginning. But mindset-wise, that was one, a lot of fear. The second one was I was still under an employee mindset. I felt that everything I did as an entrepreneur, all the activities were going to be automatically rewarded to me. So I needed a secure paycheck. So I thought that in business, it would be the same. If I talk to someone, they would be my client, right? And then I would have that income coming in steadily. And I realized also very early on that it's a complete different mindset from an employee to an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, you are working ahead of time. The thing you do today, you'll see the fruits of that 3 months, 6 months down the line. So working ahead of time was definitely another shift that I realized I had to make. And then the third one is, again, around money for me. Money has been a big topic for me. It's been to understand how to have the mindset of an investor. I'm always investing in myself and in my business, rather than thinking of things as, an expense, or thinking of things as looking at it with a short view. When I invest, I know that it's important because this is what I chose to do, and it's going to give me an ROI back on my time and the money piece as well, down the line, or maybe even immediate, depending on what the investment is. So I think those 3 things are, some of the bigger challenges that I've, I guess, learned to overcome in the journey, which have been my personal experience with starting a business.
Employee mindset versus entrepreneurial mindset. This in itself is a topic of a whole different kind of 30 minutes conversation. This is such a detail. This is such an important topic. But for my listeners, I want you to capture, and I want to reiterate something which Elona said, which was she started preparing for her entrepreneurial venture, even when she was in the last few years of her corporate, even when she mentally knew that she's about to, leave her corporate career and become her own person. I think that's a very wise way to do it, especially for someone who has, a really good job and a really good pay, as Elona did at the time that she was in her corporate career. What would you say, Elona? You mentioned employee mindset versus entrepreneurial mindset. And you mentioned the challenges, some mindset issues, as as a lot of immigrants face. We are set on a certain path. We're never encouraged to. We are almost discouraged from listening to our own hearts, listening to our own intuition. It's more like, run, run, go, go, go. No time for any such things. Now, there are so many limiting beliefs and challenges. What would you say, maybe your top one or two empowering beliefs, empowering mindsets, empowering mantras that you use on a day-to-day basis, or that you used then, or maybe even use now, to bring you to courage, to bring you to action when things are not going the best?
I love that. I want to piggyback something that you said with moving from employee to entrepreneur. Some people don't have that choice. Some people involuntarily, obviously, might lose their jobs and they need to just figure it out. I think obviously that has its pros and cons. Fear, you have fear right away and you don't have the steady income, but that actually motivates you, because I felt like I moved a little slow because I had both. And plus, obviously, you have the time thing. If you have to be split between two different things, you obviously not going to put as much time into one. So, there's pros and cons to everything. I believe in the law of polarity. There's always the positive and the negative. So we just got to choose wisely, what we want to do so that we move ourselves towards the thing that we have. I love your question about the immigrant complexes or things that, limiting things that might come up, because, I also felt like that for a long time. And actually, the good thing about New York is that it's so diverse. So I really felt like, sometimes I felt out of place, that I didn't belong. So I think that's one feeling that I felt as, an entrepreneur where I wasn't even born here, this feeling of I don't belong. And my other one is maybe the accent piece, or I'm not a natural born here person. So, how can I connect with people that are born in the US, for example? Especially when my business started, I had some of this to overcome with my accent piece, and around like, how do I connect to new markets, which I might not have so much in common with, but I wanted to serve. So I always stuck to obviously markets that I had things in common with, like women in business, women executives, women that wanted to move into, leadership careers. So I've always coiled on to something that was always familiar. But in the back of your mind, you always have that, well, am I being judged because I don't have a clear, English, and I always have an accent because English is my second language? Or the part about internally feeling like you don't belong anywhere. When I go to Albania, that's my past and it's my origin. It pulls me. But when I come here, it's still my home because I've been here 30 years. But I guess, I don't know, it's like this feeling where I don't know where I belong, because you kind of have had a split journey. So I think that's one that, some people might resonate with. But the one affirmation which you asked me about was actually what my dad spoke in my ear when actually on our road to the airport to our first location where we're going to live when we first came here, which is, he said, listen, despite everything, you can be anything you want to be. So that actually sat with me. I don't know if it's the right moment and it was said at the perfect time, but that's my affirmation that's been with me for a long time. And every time I go into fear and I go into, anything new or important that I perceive it's going to maybe move my business forward further, and you get those imposter syndromes that happen, I always affirm myself with that. You can be anything you want to do. or you want to be, and there's nothing that you can't achieve, because that was an early affirmation that was very early programmed. So I usually use those two, when I need a boost of, I guess, confidence. But yeah, they were easier for me because they were placed inside of me when I was very young. So it's easy to just kind of believe them, because I think the thing with affirmation sometimes is, if you don't believe these things, you got to practice them. Otherwise, they
Yeah.
feel foreign and they just feel like you're just saying a sentence that you don't
Yeah.
believe in. And that's the work to, wire yourself with the right positive affirmations that you eventually will believe, and they become subconscious. And we all know, well, maybe we don't know, but subconscious makes a lot of our decisions anyway. So
Your actions, whatever actions you do, they are essentially dependent on, multiple triggers which you have. And they are essentially dependent on your beliefs. And so ultimately, it is your mindset and your belief. If you believe something, that's what leads you to think in a certain way. That's what leads you to act in a certain way. It ultimately, if you can't solve this, but you got to solve it at the root. And the root is the beliefs. Even there, when I'm doing my affirmations, there are many days when there is that, am I just reading it? Is it true enough for me? But then you still do it and you still push forward. What's your future vision? What are we looking at? Who is Elona 5 years, 10 years down the line?
yeah. And one more thing about affirmations is, what I've learned
Please.
as I've gone deeper into the journey of, raising my levels of awareness, because that's really what it is. The more you can remove a lot of your barriers, the more you could see, the kind of where you're headed and what you want to achieve. Piggyback from the question that you just asked about the vision future. But I've also learned that we also have to align the feelings, because we send mixed messages when we just affirm with our head. We also have to align the feelings, get in the body, and align the heart. If there's a misalignment,
Yeah.
we're sending mixed messages, and we're not gonna, be able to, when we set that intention to really get the right people, resources, things that we need to see to move us further along towards the thing that we want. So I've aligned the second piece. I've learned about the second piece, which for the longest I didn't know about. I just thought, yeah, just in the head, repeat, yell it out, sing it out, all the things I've done to be able to just instill it. But it's also alignment of the heart and the feelings, which is important too. So as a
Yeah.
complete package. Vision for the future, vision for impact. My vision is to grow my company that is also self-sufficient eventually, in as a corporation, as a company that again puts purpose first and then profit second. Build that out, ensure that it's all properly structured, gone public, and then eventually I will want to go into the investor side, where I'm also investing in other companies to be able to select them and filter them out, who are companies that I can mentor and train and be part, investor in them, so that I can contribute and scale my purpose and profit with not just my own company, but also other companies that I can align under my portfolio. And that's kind of where I see my vision heading. And it's very clear to me that that's going to be the path. I'm just now working on, connecting the right dots in my journey to be able to make that happen. But that's kind of where I see myself, always contributing towards, society, create, innovate, bring up innovative solutions for people. And just leave my mark on this world and ensure that I'm also growing and evolving as much as I possibly can. And once those two things aligned, I'm always going to be growing and working on things that matter to me and that are important to me. And that's kind of always where I see myself.
Thank you. And that's so inspiring. Thank you. Elona, last question. Are there any favorite books that you think can inspire our listeners, or any favorite movies? What would you say? Books, movies, anything? Pick your top 3.
I love that question. I have a lot of other interests. I'm very creative. I like to write. So I write poems and then I turn them into songs. But for the movie part, I like biographies. So books that obviously talk about life journeys. I love to consume people's experiences, to kind of just connect my own dots about how they achieved things or how they overcame struggles, or what did they learn about life. I'm like a big student around, like, tried and true proverbs from, older generations, like how did things work and how do they work today. So I look at, I watch a lot of documentaries about past, present, future. So those would be some of my top. I can't recall of a recent one that I would recommend for your audience as far as documentaries. But, those are always good to kind of just connect their own dots wherever they are. And then as far as books, I'm always reading a book. A book a month is my goal, in addition to 30 minutes a day of reading and consuming something new regarding my area of interest or what I'm trying to get more education around. So Think and Grow Rich, I know everybody probably recommends this one. I read that many, many times. 4-Hour Work Week, or The One Thing. I love The One Thing because it helps people with focus, and it helped me with focusing, because I think the more we get experience, the more we junk up our lives with a lot of things. But if we just focus on the most important things, even like our purpose, there's only one thing. If you remove all the noise and get to the core of things, it's really very simple. So I like that book because it narrows your focus. So I think those would be the 3 that come to mind, which could be top.
I've read the first 2 you mentioned. I've not read The One Thing, so I'm going to pick that up. So thank you for that recommendation. Like personally, thank you for that recommendation. Elona, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? Your journey has been inspiring. I am inspired. Where can people find and learn more about you and connect to you?
Yeah, it's always the website where it's pretty much the hub of the work I do. It's at elonaloparicoaching.com. And they can find free resources on there to help them start, grow, and exit their business eventually once they get to that stage. And also I have a podcast. It's called the Life School Masterclass Show, and they can check that out as well. I also bring a lot of amazing, inspiring, purpose-driven entrepreneurs that talk about the work they're doing and how that's impacting others. And they give amazing free advice and life experience and knowledge that they share. So I think the audience would find that pretty helpful, especially if a lot of the immigrants, entrepreneurs here need education, right? Because as an entrepreneur, that's why as an immigrant, that's why we come here, because that's why my parents always drilled the education piece, like educate yourself. So, continue on that road, always educate yourself, because once you're educated, you have more awareness how to make better decisions for yourself. And usually your life that you have is a sum of your decisions at the end of the day. And the more education you have, the more you understand how to make the right choices.
Thank you. So this was Elona Lopari, everyone. Amazingly inspirational journey. And I love her, her one, I do not know what's the one thing, but the way I heard it, that the one thing for her is her desire to leave that legacy, leave that impact of purpose-driven individuals and businesses all around the world. I wish the best for you in your journey of creating that huge impact, Elona. And for everyone, for all our listeners, it was amazing for me. Please go ahead and follow Elona on elonaloparicoaching.com. That's her website, and the Life School podcast. I'm also going to listen to that. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. This was Elona Lopari and your host, Kumar V, signing out for today. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Great Immigrant Dream podcast. Keep dreaming, keep striving, and remember, the immigrant spirit knows no bounds.